Hello everybody, welcome back to Inside Man United. My name is Rowan Brennan, and if it's your first time joining us, thank you very much for checking us out. And it's the end of the week. Happy Friday to everybody. And yeah, miserable day out there. The absolute stink of football, video games and takeaway this weekend is pretty strong. So some news, the takeover stuff, backwards and forwards, up and down, left and right. What's true, what's wrong, what's happening, is it happening, has the meeting happened, what's going to happen? Yeah, all that stuff. It's going round and round in circles, but there seems to have been some developments. There was a lot of talk about the meeting for the Rackliff takeover was going to be delayed. It wasn't going to happen, then it was happening. So we've got a little bit of detail about that. Plus, as a result of Ratcliffe coming in, how that's going to be affecting United's transfer strategy. And we have a list of all the finest, youngest, best talent that Europe has to offer across various leagues. And we're going to have a little look at the type of player and the profile of player that Sir Jim Ratcliffe and his potential new committee are going to be going for if and when he does come into quote unquote power, or at least semi-control. So let's get into it. So kicking off today's news, we are going to go to The Guardian, which has a little update on the Ratcliffe kind of board meeting that was supposed to take place yesterday evening on Thursday at Old Trafford. So the bid is still weeks away from being concluded. If you'd been watching some of my videos previously, it's quite clear that there's not going to be any formal announcement for anywhere between 4 to 8 weeks. Now, the big hope is that something is done so Jim Ratcliffe can have some sort of a say in what happens in January, because if it's just left up to the Glazers, they're not going to want to spend anything and they're just going to get things wrong, and which is understandable. So no announcement planned after Thursday's board meeting. We're not going to get into San Marino rejecting Hoyland's claim they tried to injure him. Apparently, they were kicking him off the park when Denmark were playing San Marino. But that is not for today's news. So Jim Ratcliffe's bid to buy 25% of Manchester United is a few weeks from potentially being concluded. So the 12-member board on Thursday not due to rule anything definitive regarding his takeover. Although there may be a vote on some element of Ratcliffe's proposal, it's understood the announcement is not imminent. Okay, so the 6 Glazer siblings were there, plus Cliff Batty, the chief financial officer, Patrick Stewart, the chief legal officer, etc., etc. All the big wigs that you'd expect to be at a meeting like that. So his offer values the club at 5.2 billion when the club is worth 3.2, and this reflects his wish to gain sporting control. Now, apparently, that's not going to happen. They're not going to just allow him to make all the sporting decisions while they still have major control over the club. Now, it's seen that he's happy to let the commercial side be run by the Glazers and their guys, because that's actually, in fairness to them, been run reasonably well. Why? Because the commercial side is just money, 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 and that's all these guys really give a shit about. They don't understand or care about the footballing side of things, and lo and behold, the footballing side of the club has basically fallen to shit in the last 10 years. Clubs always reflect their owners. You look at Liverpool, City, these kind of clubs that have owners that have a very long-term, invested, passionate vision in what they want the club to be, the identity, the culture. The Glazers don't have that because they don't have a fucking clue about sport, let alone soccer. As they would call it. I know it's football. Don't hate me on that. So Rackliff, the owner of Anyos, is the only publicly declared bidder. We know all of this stuff. Nothing new. He wants to increase the capacity of Old Trafford to 90,000. Fine. So he is basically looking to create a 3-person committee. So we go into Sky Sports here. So he wants to have a 3-person committee with himself, Joel Glazer, and Sir Dave Brailford. Sir Dave Brailford is one of his kind of main guys at Anyos and has had a very strong influence in a multitude of the different endeavors that they're in, whether it's the Olympic teams that he's been involved with Mercedes, with F1, with Nice. They're also involved with another Swiss Super League team as well. So very much sporting people. They get sport, which is why I think the Ratcliffe involvement will have a very strong impact on how United proceed over the next few years. People will point to Nice and be like, oh, well, they're not doing much. They haven't improved greatly. They've limited amounts of money. There's limited amounts of revenue in French football. They're up against a PSG team who they're never really going to knock off the top spot. So I wouldn't really use Nice as a kind of a club to beat their sporting prowess over the head with. He's been involved in Mercedes, which has been, up until recently, the most dominant F1 team since Schumacher and Ferrari. So it's clear there's going to be a strong influence here. So Jim Ratcliffe is proposing a new committee himself with Glazer, Brailford, and obviously himself. And we go down here. So the Glazers would retain control of the commercial side of the business. Ratcliffe would have a say on those matters due to a stake in the club. But again, I think he'd prefer to have a little bit more of a backseat on the commercial side, but like the Glazers to take a bit more of a backseat on the footballing side. So this three-man committee is really what's going to kind of dictate transfer strategy, the long-term strategy of the club. He's made statements before about United being the silly money in town. He said Anyos is never the silly money or the dumb money. So they don't want to be the dumb money in the transfer market. And he has indicated that United have been the dumb money on many occasions. Yeah, Ten Hag has stressed he's focused on his team in this weekend's trip to Sheffield. Of course, he's going to say that. So let's go down here a little bit. So a who's who, okay? So this is Brailford here on the right-hand side. So he's been heavily involved in all the sporting endeavours that Anyos and Rackliff has been involved with as well. So he owns cycling team Anyos Grenadiers, League One side Nice, who he took over in 2019, and FC Lausanne Sport, a Swiss Super League club that I mentioned previously. The Greater Manchester-born billionaire also owns a third of the Mercedes team, with even Lewis Hamilton saying he's part boss, part partner. So he's not just a silent guy that sits in the background putting in money and just hoping to get a dividend every week. I mean, the guy has an invested interest in everything that he's involved in. So Brailford is Ineos's director of sport, and he's also the team principal of the cycling team Anyos Grenadiers. They haven't won a Tour de France since 2019, but they're not easy to win, and do not have a rider in the top 10. However, Brailford previously oversaw 7 Tour de France wins in charge of Team Sky, and then he rebranded Anyos Grenadiers. He also revolutionized British cycling with riders claiming 18 Olympic golds, not just medals, golds. Okay, so this guy knows sport. He knows excellence. I'd welcome a brain like that in our club. So I think that's a very strong thing for United fans to be excited about. So he's most recently been focusing on the company's football investment in League One side Nice, where the group have achieved limited success. Listen, they took over them 5 years ago. They're in a one-team league. There's not a huge amount of revenue in that league. You have to box clever, and you have to try and execute a long-term strategy, and that can take some time to do. So is Ratcliffe deal getting closer? An indication that the Ratcliffe's deal for United is getting closer is a report from Bloomberg, which claims Ineos will hold a credit update call on Monday at 3 p.m. Okay. So listen, this is going to happen. People are still waiting for a late bid from the Sheikh to come in on his cavalry horse and to come in and snatch this away with a mega offer. It's not going to happen. I welcome Ratcliffe's arrival. Now, would I have preferred the Sheikh and all his billions and just insane amounts of kind of retrofit and revamp? Of course. But a year ago, would I have welcomed Sir Jim Ratcliffe coming in with this Brailford character, taking 25% of the club, taking the reins of the sporting side and saying, listen, lads, give me a crack at this? Absolutely, I would have. So people just need to kind of temper their expectations, not get too upset that the Sheikh isn't there with his vast sums of money, and just understand that this is gonna move the needle in a positive direction for United. So anything else here? No, this is just a timeline. What impact have Rackliff and Ineos had at Nice? It's been a bit of a mixed bag with Ineos and Rackliff at Nice so far. They've had their moments. They got a French Cup final a couple of years ago, but there's no tangible success for the operation so far. They've undergone a number of changes. So they've been chopping and changing and trying different things. And I mean, you're not going to have immediate success when you're taking over a club. You need to try and instill something. So they've accrued a lot of talented young French players. So going after young, talented footballers is something that they're very good at. And that's something that is in the works for United, and we're going to go into that a little bit later on. But there's a feeling Nice should have kicked on more than they have. Okay, fair enough. Brailford has become more and more involved over the last couple of years, and you'll assume he'll play a significant role for Ineos should they become majority owners of United one day. Rackliff has been more involved as of late. There's been a sense that Nice fans have grown tired of Rackliff's flirtations with some of the Premier League clubs, which is understandable. I'd get that. Focus on us, please. But, when there's a You know, a new shiny toy in town. The billionaires are going to want to have a little look into it. If it had been Man United first up with that childhood fan connection, the Nice fans might have been a little more understanding. But now I think they've grown tired of these notions of requiring what is considered a bigger club than Nice. Totally understandable. So moving on from that, Paul Mitchell. This is someone that Ratcliffe has some sort of relationship with. Mitchell has previously worked at Monaco, and I think he might still be at Monaco. So again, they're just going into the same stuff that we've already gone over about him getting involved with United, Ratcliffe with United. But according to The Athletic, Paul Mitchell, AS Monaco's exporting director and former head of recruitment at Southampton and Spurs, is under consideration for the job. He's been consistently linked to United, especially when Pochettino was there. He had some really interesting things to say back in 2022 to Sky Sports. He said, "It's sometimes hard to comment when you're not in the internal and always trying to understand the context." I use that word a lot because I think context is important to measure what United's current situation is, but I think they need to get the point of really putting down what Manchester United needs to be in the modern game. We're a long time from the Ferguson era. Ten Hag is a top coach from Ajax, but they need a top blueprint, not just for now, but for the next 5 years, and work towards that. That's not something United have had. The Glazers just came into an already successful machine, just wanted to land on it like a leech, suck all they could out of it. And then when the guys that knew what they were doing disappeared, the Glazers were left with an absolute behemoth of a football club with no passion for football. They had no idea what they were doing. They knew the commercial side of the game very well, and that's done well, but the commercial side has to be propped up on a foundation of footballing excellence. There's only so much those commercial deals are going to be lucrative if the team continues to flounder, and it's been floundering for 10 years. On the journey, there are hard moments that you don't get the right result, even though you're doing the right thing. So that could very much echo what's going on at Nice with the guys at the moment. You have to know that over the period, the consistency of the decision-making will yield a good end result. I think we've seen that with City and Liverpool when you adopt a long-term strategy. This is, again, something the Glazers haven't done. I think the biggest thing for United, putting down their identity of what they want to be today. And it's not enough to say we want to be a really profitable company. You can't build a football team with that sort of a mission statement. It's weak. And it's very, very naive. But most crucially, what they want to be in 5 years' time and where they want to be, what they want to look like, from everything from young players to the style of play to the whole culture piece. In Manchester United, they spelled peace wrong. It's hard to argue with Mitchell's vision for United, etc., etc. So yeah, good article there. I would really welcome Paul Mitchell into the club. I think it'd be fantastic. And again, on that note, we're segueing nicely into these tabs. So the new United owners want two of the most exciting young stars in the world. Okay, so if Rackliff comes in, he wants to get two of the biggest hotshots that are available. So one of them is Florian Verts, who is widely regarded as one of the best young footballers in Europe right now. Another one is Atletico Bilbao star Nico Williams. So should United manage to land both, it'd be a huge statement of intent from Rackliff, who has criticised the club in the past for spending dumb money. Williams and Verts could theoretically replace Jadon Sancho and Anthony. That's not strictly correct. Jadon Sancho is a right winger. Anthony's a right winger. Williams is a right winger. Verts is a number 10. He's an attacking midfielder. He'd basically be a replacement for Bruno Fernandes if that was ever likely to happen, which it probably isn't. But you do need to have competition. You do need to have strong players in those positions, and I would welcome a player like Verts coming in. But would he come in knowing that he was going to be behind Captain Fantastic Bruno the whole time? His game time might be limited. Who knows? These young lads know they can get more game time at bigger clubs. That's why Dortmund do so well. That's why the likes of Brighton and these kind of elite mid-table clubs, shall we call them, are able to get these young players because they will give them 90 minutes pretty much 100% of the time. So Verts could no doubt be an expensive signing, though, given that he currently has a contract until 2027 with Leverkusen flying high in the Bundesliga. They would not want to lose him and command a similar fee to what they got for Kai Havertz. So just a little bit more on Florian Verts while we're on that topic. Let's drag this over here. Will we go here? Yeah, that's what we'll do. So Manchester United told Florian Verts asking price and more transfer rumors. So there he is. There's the kid there. There's Florian. So they've told they have to pay 74 million quid if they want to sign him. Okay. You can see here some of his stats just so far this season. 7 appearances, 1 goal, 3 assists. Not bad. That's 4 goal involvements in 7 games. Not bad for a 20-year-old kid. And he seems to be doing quite well. And listen, Leverkusen are flying at the moment. And if he's able to get into that team at the age of 20 and kind of lead their attack, he's already been capped 12 times by Germany as well. Now, Germany aren't the team they used to be, but they are still absolutely jam-packed with very, very talented players. And he's getting into that team. So it says a lot for the young lad to be able to do that. So despite boasting Bruno Fernandes in his preferred number 10 position, so he's not a right winger. He's not there to replace Sancho or Anthony. United are reportedly interested in Verts. So yeah, that's it for Florian Verts. And Nico Williams, again, from Bilbao. He's kind of doing quite well over there as well. Some data that we have here. 6 appearances, no goals, but 4 assists. Again, not bad for a kid of his age. He's 21. So 4 goal involvements in 6 games. It's a pretty great return for a young lad just starting out as well. So, a lot of excitement over Nico Williams. Apparently, a lot of the top teams are in for him. So where do we go next now? Okay, so 5 players that Ratcliffe could sign if he does become more involved in the sporting matter. So I think young recruitment is where United really want to invest a lot of their money. He has been, like I said earlier, quoted about United being the dumb money in town. He thinks we've overpaid for Casemiro, which on the face of things we probably have. There's no resale value for a guy of that age. His transfer fee was huge. His wages are incredibly expensive. That is a player who's going to probably cost us 150 million quid all in. Over the course of his contract. That's a lot of money for a player who's going to be playing for you between the ages of kind of 30 to 35. It's a huge amount of money to be paying. So I think he wants to go for these younger players. They've got resale value. You can get them on board for kind of lower wages, at least for the first couple of years of their contract. It's just the smart way to do business. So let's just scroll through all this stuff. It's just all bullshit about United and how they need to improve things. Jean-Claire Todibo, he's at Nice currently, so I'm sure he would be high on the list of players that they would like to bring in. A very good player. He was brought in by what's his name? Bradesdale. What was the name of that gent we were talking about earlier? But the guy who's going to be on the 3-man committee, he was kind of key in bringing Todibo into Nice. So he's a very, very highly rated player, 23 years of age, tall, strong, fast, good with the ball at his feet, can bring it out. Just a strong player, and that's a player that United have been linked with pretty consistently. I went into a little bit more detail on him on a previous episode, so please feel free to check that out. Jeremy Frimpong, we were linked with him last year as a right back, but then Wan-Bissaka and Dalot seemed to kind of get their act together a little bit better. So he's at Leverkusen as well, and seems to be doing quite well there. He's 22 years of age. He could cost 50 million quid. Would I be spending 50 million quid on a right back when we've got Wan-Bissaka and Dalot there? Absolutely not. So Frimpong would not be high on the list. He is a very good player. United have definitely been looking at him, but not a player that I would be prioritizing as someone we need to get in, given the deficiencies we have elsewhere in the squad. Gonçalo Inacio, or Gonçalo Inacio, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that. So Ten Hag is a stickler for his centre backs playing on their natural side, which is true. So with Martinez's recent injury, he's our kind of only left-footed centre back, really. He's had to use Lindelof, Maguire, and even Shaw at left back. So what he would bring, Inacio, again, I've covered this guy in more detail in a previous episode. You'll see his picture on the thumbnail if you're wondering which episode that is. He's good cover in that position. He's very highly rated at Sporting Lisbon. 22 years of age. I think he's already got over 100 appearances for them. He's been playing with them. He's been in the first team since he was 19. And I think he's starting to get into the first team. So very highly rated. And I would not be surprised to see both him and Jean-Claire Todibo maybe arriving at United. So Zubamendi, this is it Zaragoza or Sociedad? It's Sociedad. 24-year-old, much in the mold of Sergio Busquets, a defensive midfielder. That's the kind of position that we need. Ten Hag has been said that Amrabat is more of a number 8. He sees Amrabat more of a kind of box-to-box guy that covers a lot of ground. So is Amrabat the CDM that we expect him to be? Maybe, maybe not. I think he can come in there and do a job, but he's certainly got that number 8 kind of profile, and Ten Hag is on record as saying that. So someone who's a number 6 specialist, I think, would be someone like Zubamendi, and that would be very interesting for Ten Hag, considering Casemiro's performances as of late. Even though he's our top scorer and has been doing very well going forward, that's not really his job. He's there to protect the defense and make sure we don't leak goals. And we've been leaking goals like a motherfucker at the moment. So Zubimendi, I think, could be a very welcome addition. 24, Sociedad. The Sergio Busquets reincarnate, they're saying here, likes to control possession, something that's been seemingly lacking from the United side this season, and provides a calmness, etc., etc. So seems to be a pretty good player, and United looking at him. So anyone looking at the Premier League at the moment and following Wolves for all their difficulties, Pedro Neto has been a shining light for them, playing as the right wing forward, very much where Nico Williams plays. It looks like United are being linked with this right wing kind of position, with obviously Greenwood gone and currently at Getafe. Pelistri still remaining, still has to prove himself, really, even though he's kind of starting for Uruguay. Has he done enough in the United shirt? Anthony, a big money buy, but if it's not working out, there's no point persisting with a bad hand, even if you've got a lot of money in the pot, which United certainly did with Anthony. They'd be able to get maybe half the amount they spent on him back, who knows? But it hasn't quite clicked, as they're saying here in this article. And Pedro Neto has been doing very, very well for Wolves. I've even got him in my fantasy team, so I brought him in. I think he's going to do some good stuff. So he's comfortable with either foot, loves to commit defenders. He's a good dribbler. He's very quick, and he's been one of the real positives for Wolves this season. And I, for one, would love to see Pedro Neto at United. So I'm all for that. And finally, United are tracking Benfica midfielder João Neves. This seems to be the kind of the big ticket item that United want. You have your Florian Verts and Jean-Claire Todibo and all these other players, but João Neves seems to be the young, hot thing on the block at the moment. 19 years of age, playing with Benfica, and I think he's playing with Antonio Silva, who's another centre-half United have been linked with. Again, that's in a previous episode that I covered. His current deal runs until 2028, and they know how good this kid is. He's got a release clause of 120 million euro. So he's another defensive midfielder. So, yeah, very much in the mould of Zubimendi. So he's a top talent from Benfica, who's under Jorge Mendez's Gestafoot agency. So a very highly rated young lad. And it looks like Ten Hag is very much in for him, but so are all the other big hitters. City, Dortmund, I think PSG are looking at him as well. So Benfica aren't in a hurry to get rid of him. He's still young. He's got a big release clause. United are certainly not going to be able to get him in January. We're probably not going to have funds. Whether Rackliff comes in or not, I don't think funds are going to be readily available for big ticket items. But yeah, Neves, one of the kind of the big names being linked with United at the moment. So that's pretty much it for today's news. Just a little bit of an update on Jim Ratcliffe. So I think it's going to be a bit of a slow bleed, that one. It's going to take a few weeks for things to be formalized and announced. Lots of things going on in the background. But it certainly looks like the end game is in sight. So everyone just needs to remain patient. I'm sure there's going to be lots of channels regurgitating the same boring shit news, repackaging it and trying to present it as fresh content. But it's going to be a bit of a slow bleed, I think, at the moment. But anytime there's something worthwhile reporting, anything sort of relevant and juicy, I will be sure to present it. But until such time, I'm not going to keep bombarding people with the same content repackaged just for the sake of fresh content. I will wait for there to be some meaningful movement in that takeover saga before I bring any updates to you guys. What are your thoughts on everything? Are you happy with Ratcliffe coming in? What do you think of that three-man committee? It sounds like three lads going on holidays, and all you need is two of them making the decision, and the third one has to kind of go along with it. So I'm hoping that's what Ratcliffe and his buddy does with Joel Glazer, who frankly doesn't have a fucking clue what he's doing. So hopefully that's what happens if this three-man committee gets formed. I certainly hope that as well. And it looks like we're being connected with a lot of very exciting young talent across Europe, and I, for one, I'm sick of seeing overpaid, overhyped mercenaries. Some of them not even overhyped, doing very well at other clubs, but as soon as they come to United, it just doesn't work out. We've seen too much of it between Di Maria, Lukaku, and bloody Pogba and plenty of other ones where it just hasn't happened. So I'd love to see young players coming in that we can mould, that we could still get a price for if we sold them. They're not going to be on outrageous wages if we want to sell them. It's a strategy that I'm all for, and if it takes 2, 3, 4 years for us to build a credible winning machine to take on the likes of City and Liverpool, then I am certainly willing to wait if there's going to be good stuff coming at the end of those 4 years. Anyway, once again, thank you so much for tuning in and watching. As always, please hit like, hit subscribe, hit that notification button. You've no idea how much it means and how important it is to these channels. So if you spare a quick second, hit that like button and enjoy the match. Check out my other video, Sheffield United versus Manchester United preview, team lineups, just a look into the game, who's injured, who's not, what the lineup could be, what it should be, and just a little bit of a preview on that match to get us excited. 8 o'clock kickoff, Saturday evening, bit of a weird one. We're not used to that kind of a time on a Saturday match. Usually 5:30 is the latest, but 8 o'clock evening kickoff, and then as soon as it's over, match of the day is going to be on, which is kind of strange. Anyway, check that video out, and listen, see you on the next one.